Hey everyone, this is Snatch Gaming. I'm Mike, and it's been a while since I made a video. I'm in my new Dungeness location here, as you can tell. And there's a reason for why there hasn't been a lot of videos and why I've done some other stuff that haven't been quite as consistent either. I was doing a podcast for a little while, that's why I have the cool little logo there. And the podcast went well for a little while, but it's just hard to do this stuff on a regular basis when you've got other obligations and a job like everyone else. So the podcast was okay for a little while. I've got a website, snatchgaming.com, which is a blog that, again, consistency isn't always there, but I write a lot of editorial type stuff. I do some reviews every once in a while on there. And the podcast was kind of the main thing for a while there, just because since I've moved and everything else, it was the best way to get some content out there on a regular basis. And I was doing it for about once a week. I'd miss a week here and there, and it was just still hard to keep up with, even though it was just audio. So you can check that out on iTunes if you want for a few laughs. There's probably some pearls there as far as commentary and things like that, but I found out really quickly that it's really difficult to talk for like an hour straight with no one else talking back to you and no breaks in between. And it gave me a newfound appreciation for people that do radio and stuff like that, because it's really, really tough. Also, we're kind of jerry-rigging everything around here, so if I'm in your face, if I'm a little too close, I apologize. But I just wanted to mention a little bit about where the channel is at. I'm hoping to do some more videos this summer. Things are looking pretty good as far as opening up time-wise and things like that, but we'll just have to see. I'd love to get back to doing the reviews. I have about half of a review in the can that I just haven't finished, and a game that I haven't quite finished either. So I'd love to get back to those, but for the meantime, I've always liked these vlogs for certain content creators that I follow or have followed in the past, where they just kind of get in front of a camera and talk. So maybe this will be good. I mean, maybe it won't be quite as good as the reviews, but I'll just kind of get you up to speed on what I'm playing. I already talked a little bit about the channel and the whole Snatch Gaming thing, I guess. Got a lot of different stuff in place, but again, as far as, week to week, month to month, I don't know exactly what's going to come out. Eventually, I hope to get to a point where I know exactly, I'm doing a video every so many weeks, I'm writing an editorial or a review every few days, and I'm doing a podcast every week or every 2 weeks or something like that. But I kind of found out that the podcast is something that you should probably do after you've established yourself elsewhere. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. It's very slow going, but I think my stuff is improving little by little as we go along here. So hopefully we'll get to a point where it's all this whole Snatch Gaming ecosystem or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So right now, I'm going to try to get back into the videos in the next few months, and we'll just see where it goes from there. What I've been playing lately, I've been playing a lot of PC stuff actually, but thankfully it's stuff that is usually on the consoles as well. So if you haven't played these games and you don't have any kind of a gaming PC, or you're just not interested in Steam and whatever and getting into all that, these games are still games that you can find elsewhere. And the first one that I've talked about a lot, especially on the podcast, is Enter the Gungeon. And Enter the Gungeon has been my game for 6 to 9 months now. It's finally cooling off on me just a little bit, only because they did a free update, added some more stuff, and I'm to the point now where I've almost 100%ed the game, which is saying something because I've put a shitload of hours into this game and I'm still not at 100%. And it's basically a top-down, as you can see here. It's kind of a top-down twin-stick shooter, sort of, but it's a little bit, has a little bit of a bullet hell element. And there's a ton of unlockables, which I love. There's dozens and dozens of guns, dozens and dozens of items, different modes you can unlock and things like that. If you buy this game, you'll spend a ton of time with it, and I highly recommend it. If you don't like a little bit of a challenge, you might want to stay away, but it's definitely a beatable game. And once you start beating it, you'll keep coming back to unlock more guns and all that other stuff. And like I said, they're really treating the game well as far as following up. They've done the free update, and they're going to do a paid DLC at some point here in the next, 6 to 12 months maybe. It's really up in the air right now, but there's a ton of content. I think I've spent a little over 350 hours with this game. So that is just something that does not happen with me anymore. I rarely spend more than 20 to 50 hours on a game anymore. That's just the way it's gone. I'm usually jumping from one game to another. So it's a testament to how good I think this game is. You can grab that on PS4 and Xbox One as well as Steam. So highly recommend that one. I've been playing The Witness actually too, which was Jonathan Blow's follow-up to Braid. And this was one that came highly well reviewed, and it's a puzzler. You've probably read a little bit about it at least. It's a puzzler through and through. I mean, there's not much else going on here except doing puzzles where you make lines, and you make lines around different squares, and you try to solve them, and they all have different elements to them. You're on this big island where there's all kinds of different scenery. It's actually kind of a beautiful game in its own way. It's not the biggest graphical powerhouse or anything by any stretch, but in its own way, it's a great looking game, and it's nice to just kind of wander around and see what else there is to see aside from doing the puzzles. Now, my one thing about this game is that and this is a good thing sometimes and a bad thing sometimes, it doesn't tell you what to do, pretty much ever. The only time it tells you how to do things is through the puzzles. So if you see a new puzzle you haven't encountered yet and you can't figure it out, that probably just means that somewhere else on the island there's some kind of basically an in-game tutorial about here's a simple version of this puzzle, here's a little more complex. Down the line, you do a few, and then you realize that anytime you encounter those types of puzzles elsewhere on the island, you'll know how to approach them. The problem with that is that you encounter that a lot. For instance, right now, I'm stuck. I'm on a puzzle that I actually know how to do, I just can't figure the damn thing out. And I was told by people to, just stick with it. If you can't figure that one out, just wander around, find a different puzzle, and you'll either learn how to do the one that you're stuck on, or you'll find another pathway to take on a different part of the island. Okay, that's great. And as you can see in the footage here, what I'm doing is pretty much not figuring out a puzzle, wandering around, not figuring out another puzzle, on and on and on. So you can get into this bad mode where you're just finding a bunch of stuff that you don't know how to do. And it might be something that you've done before that's just a little more complex, or something that you just plain haven't encountered before. And that causes a lot of frustration. When the game works, it works really, really well. When you're moving from puzzle to puzzle and you're figuring things out, the game is really great as far as puzzle games go. But there will be times where you get stuck, and sticking with it sometimes will do the trick, and sometimes it won't. There's part of the footage you'll see where I'm just wandering around, and then I'm finding these puzzles that I just don't know how to do, and then down the road I actually figure out, or rather I find the in-game tutorial of how to do them, and then I eventually get stuck again, but at least the game is, at least I found the part where the game tells me how to do these puzzles. So this is one that if you like puzzle games, if you really, really like puzzle games, you owe it to yourself to play it. If you're like me and you're like, I like puzzle games sometimes, I like figuring out puzzles in games, it's a good purchase, but I would really negotiate with yourself on the price, because this is a $40 game retail, and aside from the scenery, you're just solving line puzzles the whole time. So it's definitely more than the sum of its parts. It's more than what I'm describing once you get into the game. But if you can give it a try instead of just going ahead and buying it for full price, or if you can find a deal, I would check it out. But the price is going to be, it's going to be controversial for some people, or rather, it's going to be contentious for some people. So check that one out. The other one that I tried was Rogue Legacy, which, again, on all consoles. Everything I've talked about so far has been on all major platforms besides the Wii U/Switch, of course. And Rogue Legacy is basically a side-scroller similar to Castlevania. I've seen a lot of comparisons to Castlevania, but I think the setting is similar in that you're in a castle and there's ghosts and skeletons and shit like that. But other than that, I don't think it's very much like Castlevania. You're a knight with a sword instead of a whip, and it's these spooky castles. Otherwise, I don't think they're that similar. And the graphics, as you can tell, are a lot more cartoony than Castlevania, or at least more cartoony than Castlevania meant to be, even from the beginning. But basically, this is a game where you're supposed to die a lot. And as you play the game, you gain gold. Every time you die, before you start a new run, you pay gold to upgrade your health, upgrade your armor, your sword, your magic, whatever. And as you build characters up or build yourself up as the player, you'll start getting farther and farther. I didn't really care for this one at first, actually. And this is one that people really had a lot of great things to say about. So, but it did grow on me. And I've started finding myself playing it more and more. I'm still not in love with the art style. It's just a little cartoony for me and a little too simplistic for me. I think in this day and age, I think we can do better. But on the flip side of that, the price for the game, I mean, you can't beat it. I think it's $5 or $10 normally. You can find it on sale for less than $5 all day. So it's really worth considering at that price and taking a chance on, even if you're not sure if it's something you want to get into. But you do end up fighting the same enemies over and over until you start getting to some mid-bosses and stuff like that. But overall, I mean, the castles are randomly generated each time, so it's not the same. It's not like Castlevania where you're playing through the same exact levels over and over. You're getting a new map all the time, and the maps are really complex. The rooms go up and down as well as left and right. So, worth trying. Maybe I'm in the minority, and this is a great game, and I'm just not quite seeing it. I play it every so often. I'll stream it on Twitch once in a blue moon, too, since it's one of the few things I can get to work on Twitch. But regardless, try it out for a few bucks for sure. A little more than that, I might do a little bit more research. And the last game that I've been playing quite a bit is Subnautica, which is a game that's in early access right now on Steam. And you can actually get it on the Xbox One as well. No PS4 from what I can tell, which is kind of strange. It's usually the reverse. But Subnautica is a survival game, which are pretty big these days. Excuse me. You have games like Rust and games like that where, you know, you have your health meter, but you also have your hunger meter, your thirst meter, and whatever else. Subnautica is basically a game in that genre where everything is underwater, pretty much. You are in a spaceship that crashes. You go into a pod. The pod lands on an ocean, not on Earth. It's on some unknown planet. And you're floating there, and you basically have to get in the water, gain resources so you can make filtered water and find fish to eat and things like that. Eventually, what you'll do is you'll gain some abilities, not abilities, but you'll gain some equipment that'll allow you to build your own, domiciles basically underwater. So you can build your own bases underneath the water. You can put air filters on the surface and run pipes down. So you can run pipes down to a really deep part of the ocean where your air tank might not take you all the way down normally. You can suck on some air from the pipes. So there's a lot of different things to do, and the exploration is really the big attraction here. Because there's all these different species that you can scan if that's your thing. I don't really bother with that, but if you want to catalog all these new species that you're finding, you can do that. Some of them are predatory, some of them are not. Some of them are a little bit in between. They're docile, but if you get too close, they'll attack you. So all manner of fish and sea life in general, all kinds of different plants that you can craft things into. You can craft better wetsuits, radiation-resistant wetsuits and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff to do, and I've started to build my own underwater bases. They're not that great, they're not that cool, but I've played the game for about 30 hours, and I've done a lot in it. The one thing that's kind of wearing on me is I think these survival games just might not be for me, because I really enjoy exploring and I really enjoy building stuff. What I don't enjoy is hacking away a piece of coral and a piece of and finding a salt deposit, putting them together to make ammonia, or rather chlorine, and then filtering that to make bottled water. I mean, it's a process that just kind of weighs on me after a while, especially on top of the fact that you can only stay underwater for so long, which makes sense, but still, there's a few meters that you have to consider that I just want to play the game. Now, granted, you can do that. You can turn everything off and just swim around and do whatever. I don't know if you can turn the air off, but I believe you can. You can just swim around and do whatever you please. But I played this one again today, just capturing some footage, swimming around, and I think I might start over again and play it legit, because it is a really good time. You'll start being able to go places that are way far away from where your vessel is, your emergency vessel that crashed down and landed in the water. And they're doing a lot of updates with this game, and I've just caught glimpses of the updates, and the places that they're adding are places that I don't think I'm anywhere near finding them. So I think eventually there's other modes of transportation that you can craft. I think there might be like a jet ski sort of thing, or basically there's some kind of underwater vessel that'll let you basically go around like a submarine sort of. Personal vessels like that. So you'll be able to get around a lot quicker later in the game, farther than I am, quite frankly. So this is a pretty cool game. I would say that if you have been interested in survival games, if you've never tried one, I would try this one. I think it's really, really cool. And you'll get a taste of the genre and see if it's something that you like. Or what you can also, if you're someone that has played these before, I don't know if you need another one, but at the same time, if you play these regularly, you're probably highly interested in this. So it comes with a soft recommendation. I think it's $20 normally to get in on the early access version, which isn't bad. Just today, I went through the new update, loaded that up, and they made the menus much cleaner and things like that. So they're really putting the time into this game. And you can tell from the footage that there's a lot of pop-in. I mean, you can get really close to not the surface, but the bottom of the ocean, and all of a sudden a bunch of vegetation and stuff will pop in. Those are things that they'll probably address at the end right before the game comes out of early access. So something to consider. It's not a terrible running game. It's just that they haven't optimized it yet. So that's everything I've been playing. And like I said, I'm going to try to do another video soon. It might be one like this, but I'll try to work on a proper review as well. But as you can see, I mean, I'm kind of just slapping this all together. The light's over there. I've got I've got a microphone over here that you can't see that's just like wherever it would go. So, there's pipes and all kinds of crap around here. I'm not being held captive. I'm just in an unfinished basement. So I do plan on doing another video soon. I bought a couple Genesis games on eBay recently, and the seller claimed that they wouldn't play, which I've pretty much never encountered before. And I got a really good deal on these two games, so I want to just see if they'll play. I'll shoot some footage, give a little background, and then I'll show how I clean the games. That stuff's been shown before, but I'll just show a little bit about how I do it, because I've had pretty good success with it, and then we'll see if they play. I find it hard to believe they wouldn't, but that's probably coming up next. That's all for now. Check me out on snatchgaming.com. At Snatch Games on Twitter is where you can find me on there. Snatch Gaming on Instagram, which I'm working on putting a little more up there. That's kind of being neglected for now. We've got enough things going on, I think. And like I said, check out the Snatch Gaming podcast on iTunes. It is what it is. I think it's okay, but I'd love to get back into it regularly and really get into a rhythm and give a little bit of a better performance or whatever you want to call it. So that's where you can find me for now. This is Snatch Gaming. I'm Mike, and I'll see you next time.